Hello everyone, and thank you for watching another of my videos. In today's video I should say hello girls, hello ladies, because this video is primarily for my sisters, especially the younger sisters, those that they are not married yet, or those that they are divorced and they are planning to remarry, or widowed and they're planning to remarry. But even for those of you that you are already married and you never had a marital contract, you know what? You can have a marital contract whenever you want. So just watch. Now for the gentlemen that they are watching, very good for you, sir. It's good for you to want to educate yourself on this matter. So this will be the first of 3 or 4, I'm not quite sure how many videos will come out of this. And all the set of videos will be about the marital contract. The first video, today's video, I will give you a historical background of the marital contract and what was and what wasn't, and also the necessity of having a marital contract today. I will differentiate between Muslim majority countries and Muslim minority countries, but I will also talk about more practical benefits. The next video, inshallah, it will be about the religious support, how the Qur'an, how the Hadith, how the practices of the Prophet confirm the need of a contract, because many men they refuse to have a contract. If the person that you want to marry refuses to have a contract, run fast. It is your right. The scholars agree. In the Quran is mentioned, you have the right to have your contract. Now, so we will talk about the religious background and why it's very important, because very often men say, oh no, there's not such a thing as contract. Women do not. The contract that they understand is this one piece of paper where it says the name of the bride, the name of the groom, and the mahar, and then you sign. No, we don't talk about this contract. We talk about a document that both parts will sit, agree upon, and sign the day of the wedding. And this is a legally binding document in Islam, okay, in Islamic terms, not in the civil law. So first is the history and the importance, then it will be the religious background, and then it will be more about exactly what you can and what you cannot put, because sometimes men are like, oh, you cannot ask me not to get a second or a third wife. Yes, we can. It's a very acceptable stipulation. And I will also give you the religious background of that. Now, I'm not quite sure whether I will have a fourth or not, where I will share a sample, or I'm not quite sure about that. Perhaps I will just give you my email, and those of you that you are interested, I can send you a model that I have, a model of a contract. Because remember, the contract is meant to be personal. It's meant to be about your needs and your husband's capacity, or future husband's capacity. Now, as I said earlier, one, a contract is your right, is your religious right. Do not accept to marry without a contract. Second, the contract can be renewed, because if you get married in your early 20s, by your early 40s, your needs, yourself, you have changed. Okay, so your needs have changed. So you can review your contract with your husband, of course. And if you had never had a contract and you are married, no matter for how long you have been married, you can always set up a contract. Of course, it will be difficult, because the husband will be like, oh, come on, why do you bother me now? You never bothered me on that. But that depends on your personal relationship with your husband. So, Bismillah, let's start with the historical background. Before we see the support that has been offered by Allah in the Quran and by the scholars and by the Prophet in the concept of marital contract, a very important and unfortunately neglected point that needs to be clarified is that in the era of the Prophet, women, for the purposes of marriage, were split in 2 categories: the free women and the slave women. And here comes the very common question, oh, so enslaved women were Muslim? Were Muslim women enslaved? Yes, we had many enslaved Muslim women. And that's why we had the different understanding of hijab, that a free woman was supposed to wear the hijab, not the hijab, this hijab, okay, was supposed to wear long garments, let's put it like that, that will cover her body, whereas slaves were forbidden. I mean, if an enslaved Muslim woman was supposed to not have, you know, these extra garments. So, why this is important for you to understand the difference? Because what we call today marriage, the contract of marriage today, the paper where you put your name and his name and you sign, we call it nikah. But back then, in the era of the Prophet, this was the contract for the slaves, not for the free women. What do I mean by that? Each category of women had different rights and means to enter in an intimate relationship with a man. Free women, regardless of their wealth or social status, had the right to shape and negotiate the terms of their marriage in what it was known as Qur'an contract. So the contract of marriage was for free women was called Qur'an, and it was where the free women had the right to negotiate and ask things. The enslaved women could not negotiate, but rather their option was limited in accepting or rejecting a sexual relationship with their owner type of agreement. Accepting or rejecting a sexual relationship. The type of their agreement was known as nikah contract, and was very specifically focused on the sexual part of a marriage, as it is evident from the root of the word nikah that, if you don't know it, the word nikah comes from the root that creates also the word for coitus, okay, for sexual act, for sex. You can find more information about that on the book A Woman's Identity and Rethinking the Hadith by Nimat Hafez Barazangi, pages 134 to 137. So in other words, in the era of the Prophet, the nikah contract was only for the slave ladies, the enslaved ladies, and they had no stipulation. It was just her name, his name, and that's it. For free women, the contract was the Qur'an contract, and it could be 20 pages, 30 pages, 50 pages. And of course, now one will wonder, how did we manage in our era that all Muslim women have the enslaved type of marriage, which is the nikah? Perhaps the ulama of the past, I don't know, I'm just saying. If you're watching my videos regularly, you know the answer, or you can imagine the answer, but this is a different topic. I will not expand on this. So this is for you for historical purposes. This distinction between Qur'an and nikah no longer exists. However, scholars and lay males made it so that now free women were to accept nikah instead of draft their own Qur'an. That's why in many communities, Muslim communities of Muslims, the idea of a woman drafting her own marital contract is like, oh, we don't do that anymore. From the late 20th century, when Muslim women started reclaiming the space of knowledge production, the idea of women drafting their own contracts started being revived under the title of nikah. So what I say here, what I mean here is this, that until the 20th century, we had the male ulama telling us how to practice Islam, and for some reason they forgot to tell us that women have the right to have their own contract. From early 20th century, late 20th century, mid to late 20th century, when women started becoming ulama, they dig in the past and they found out the fact that we have the right. So they started bringing back the idea of drafting our own contracts. They haven't changed the name. We haven't changed the name. The name remains nikah, as the male ulama had it for all these centuries. But now we demand that we put our terms and conditions. And this is your right, your religious right. Do not forfeit it. Well, between me and you, I would prefer to have a Qur'an contract, because the nikah contract, you know, has this connotation, this sexual connotation that marriage is all about sex. But anyway, alhamdulillah, if it works, I don't care about the name, make it work. Whereas in the Quran, the idea of a man marrying a woman is not limited to the intercourse. A man, by marrying a woman, secures the privilege to intimacy in non-sexual manners. The privilege to compliment the wife and be complimented by her. The privilege to receive and offer non-sexual intimacy. The privilege to enjoy the view of naked body and be naked with her. An important element that we need to bear in mind is that even in the era of slaves, a male had to pay a price for having such privileges, both towards a free woman and a slave woman. In regards to a free woman, the man had to be bound to a lifelong maintenance and pleasing of the said woman. In the case of his slave, in the precondition that this slave would bear a child, the man had to offer her freedom. So a man who married a slave woman, if this woman was giving birth to a child, male or female, doesn't matter, automatically the man was obliged to free the woman. The woman was no longer a slave. And this is something we have seen a lot in the Ottoman Empire. Another important distinction between a free woman and a slave woman was that the contract with the free woman does not include her labor. Women, you're not supposed to clean, domestic or otherwise, or time, whereas the contract with a slave, so the nikah contract with a slave, did include her labor and time until she bore her master's child. The moment she bore the child, she was free. She didn't have to clean. And why do I mention this? I mean, does that matter today? Yeah, it matters. It matters. Because what has happened is that for so many centuries, the male ulama made all women have nikah, have slave contracts, which perhaps reminds us Al-Ghazali's idea of marriage as an enslavement and the role of the woman as a slave. So in the nikah contract, the woman has to offer sex and physical labor and her time. Her time belongs to the husband. Her husband can tell her what to do with her life. In the Qur'an contract, the contract of a free woman, the husband does not have the right on her time, does not have a right on her labor. He only has right on intimacy. And what do I mean by intimacy? It's not only the coitus, it's not only the sexual act. You know, as a woman, no man has the right now, I'm single. No man has the right now to come and pet my face. No man has the right to, to do this to me. No man has the right to even touch me anywhere. You don't have the right. The husband has the right. So it's not only, because men have made it be that, oh, I'm married to have sex. It's not only about sex. It's about intimacy, telling me that I'm beautiful and I tell you that you're handsome. Right now, even if I like someone, if you are now engaged, let's say, and you are drafting your contract or anything, technically you don't have the right to be sweet with your future husband because it's a future husband. It's not a husband yet, okay? So the marital contract of a free woman was all about permitting, giving the privilege to the man to have access for sweet, romantic, cute interaction. Anyway, I will not go further on that, but I would really like to see a contract being named Qur'an and being proper as it was in the era of the Prophet. The Sunnah, somehow the Dawah boys forgot that this is a Sunnah. It's Sunnah only when it fits them. Astaghfirullah. Now, you will tell me, or when the boy will tell you, or the gentleman will tell you, why do you need a contract? Personal experience. Do you know how many men they have proposed to me, and the moment I mention contract, they're like, I don't do contract. And I'm like, I don't do marriage. You don't do contract? Yalla habibi, the door is open. So why a contract? First of all, it helps you solidify in your head your expectations and needs. Because, and this is a thing that once a lady told me, and it's a very important part. Many young Muslim women today, maybe older but young particularly, they focus so much on the wedding. The dress, the flowers, the music, the food. They don't focus on the marriage. You don't get married for this one day. You get married for the rest of your life. So instead of finding him cute and imagining the majestic gown and your hairstyle and everything, think what you want, what you expect in the marriage. Set up your boundaries first in your head, okay? What is it, a behavior that I don't accept? You need to communicate that. He needs to know, because if you don't tell him, how would he know? Would he sniff his fingers? So it's important for you to solidify your expectations and needs. And it can be anything. For example, personally, my need is my crafting. I do crochet. It is a need. It is not something, it's not a luxury. So if I ever get, inshallah, to get married, my husband will know that, and my husband will have to facilitate that, will have to give me time, will have, not give me time in the sense, but will have to leave me alone. When I crochet, don't touch me, don't bother me, leave me, let me do it. This for me is a need. For another woman, need will be to go for trips. For another woman, a need to be to do gardening. Whatever. You need to solidify your needs. It will be your first common project. Most of us nowadays, we don't know the potential spouse. This will be your first project as a team. And remember, in a wedding, in a marriage, you are supposed to be a team. So it will be a good common project. You can't, as a lady, and he can't, as a gentleman, just draft the contract and throw it on each other's face. No, you have to sit together. You put a set of stipulations. He brings his own set of stipulations, and you start working together, and the final contract will have all the stipulations together. It's important because through this process you will highlight the role, rights and duties of each party. Because I, as a woman, I know that I don't have any duty cleaning the house of my husband when I will be married. But perhaps he comes from a background that he believes that a woman is obliged to clean. Now, that being said, it doesn't mean that I will never clean the house. It means I'm not obliged. There is a huge difference between obligation and doing it as a form of charity. These things will need to be specified, especially because today most couples, we are coming from different backgrounds, culturally, linguistically, etc. It is a tangible means to set up your boundaries, as I said earlier, and setting boundaries is essential for your mental health and well-being, be it with friends, colleagues, strangers, and of course your husband. It helps to get to know each other and check your future partner's character. Beyond setting your boundaries, it will be a wonderful experience to see how your future partner handles unpleasant realities, especially each side's understanding of what a marriage is. You will get the first signs or red flags on how much the future husband respects and values you. Because at the beginning, everyone wants to get married, everyone wants the romance, everyone wants the wedding day, and things are not being discussed. Okay, and people, my mindset of marriage, I believe that automatically that this is his mindset. No, it isn't. So at some point, he might put a stipulation like, oh, you know what, you will not visit your mother. Okay, we'll talk about that later. Do you like that? Can you live with that? Because for him, might this be taken for granted? How will you react? When you will tell him that, you know what, I will not clean the house because I don't want to. How will he react? If you will be like, you cannot put that, if he will show his temper, watch out for that. And it's different because, oh, but I asked him, I don't need the marital contract because I have asked him. Yeah, when it's a thin air, everyone says yes. Everyone is very sweet. Put it on a contract. Make sure he knows that he signs for the rest of his life, that he is liable for this. Because with the words, of course, you will say, yeah, you don't have to. It's okay. I love you. You're so beautiful. You get distracted. You get flattered. You forgot what you were talking about. Sit and write the contract. The contract will protect your future self. We consider normal to save money for retirement, exercise, and eat healthily, all for the sake of our future selves. How about our quality of life that relates to our better half? Your husband or your wife, depends on what you are, will play a pivotal role in your mental health. The contract will help the wife to secure a religious divorce. Very important. Very important, especially in Muslim minority countries. We will see it later. It bestows on the woman the right of divorce. If you put the stipulation, there is a specific stipulation where you can put, and the husband gives the right of divorce to the wife. And this is not the khula divorce. This is a divorce like, how do we call talaq? This is talaq. Okay? To enjoy peace, we must be ready for war, we like it or not. As we all know, the way past ulama have shaped Islamic jurisprudence is in such that in such a way that the right of women to request a divorce is limited. We will talk about that later. A contract will help you avoid misunderstandings and unfounded expectations. As I said earlier, we believe that our understanding is everyone's understanding. That's not the case. To secure the marriage from external influences, mothers-in-law, brothers-in-law, fathers-in-law, very carefully stipulate what are your limits with his family, what are you willing to do and what you are not willing to do. Email me, I will send you the contract, the model contract I have. There are stipulations about familial relationships there. If basic rules have been set up in advance, none of the parties can introduce new elements influenced by friends or family. And to make the future husband understand that the wife is fully knowledgeable of her religious rights. For men, it's ideal to have a woman that she doesn't know much. She doesn't ask much. She's quiet. Because this woman, he can manipulate. But if he knows that you are knowledgeable, if you come, because men, personal experience, I have only one has never questioned the idea of marital contract and has showed interest in marital contract. Every other man that has proposed to me, Muslim man, first thing they propose, second thing I say, okay, let's see what we'll put in the contract. And then it's like, oh no, I don't do contract. Don't do contract. Show the man that you know. And if he doesn't know, because some men, they don't know, okay? They don't, not every man comes from a malicious point of view. Some, they don't know. Teach them. And show them that you know. Show them that you know your religion. Your religion is not only to pray and fast. There are many elements of your religion. He will respect you if he is a correct man. If he runs away, he wanted to play you and you saved yourself. What protection does a marital contract offer? Girls, I cannot emphasize, it is very important to do your marital contract. Forget love and flowers and butterflies. It can potentially save your life. And I mean your life. Very important. Do not back up on the contract. Contrary to what some people believe, none of the clauses can force the other party to do or not do something. The role of the marital contract is to offer a solid foundation of mutual understanding of expectations and a valid religious ground to end the marriage. For example, if the contract stipulates that the wife does not permit the husband to have a second wife, then the only thing that the contract offers is the freedom of the wife to end the marriage. So, some women, they have approached me and they're like, okay, I can put in the contract that he cannot marry, let's say, another wife. But what if he does? Yeah, you cannot stop him. And equally, if he puts in the contract that you need to clean the house 365 days a year, and you accept it, and you sign the contract, still, you can skip, you cannot clean the house. But the moment one of the stipulations will not be fulfilled, the party that is being abused, because this is an abuse, because if I agree with my husband, future husband, that I will clean and then I don't clean, then I breach my contract. I'm not a good Muslim. To begin with, I'm not a good Muslim. But beyond that, I breach a contract and this is against his interests, is against his right, okay? Because I gave him that right. Then he has the right to end the marriage. Out of question. So from our point of view, if he wants to get a second wife, he will get a second wife. But it gives you the right to end the marriage. So it doesn't protect you from his actions, but it gives you your freedom. Now let's see how the civil law in general, and I talk primarily for Muslim minority countries, how the civil law gets into the play. A private marital contract does not substitute a civil registration of the marriage. Your civil divorce will take place according to the local civil law. Never, ever, ever, in the history of ever, never marry in a mosque without registering it in your country. Some countries, the law is as such that even mosques need to register it. But there are always other mosques that they don't. Do not accept that. Never, ladies, never. If you don't have your marriage registered in the country that you live, in the civil law, you are not married. Yeah, in the eyes of God you are, and you don't... there is a difference between not doing zina because an imam signed a paper with your names. This is for your spirit, this is for the afterlife, okay? But for this life, for your children's protection, for your financial protection, you must register your marriage in the local, according to the local civil law. Courts can recognize your marital contract on the same grounds that they recognize a prenup agreement, with the preconditions that the marriage has been registered with the state and that none of its clauses contradict the local civil law. Therefore, knowledge of the civil law of the country you reside is an important matter. Hiring a lawyer to help with the contract is advisable. You don't have to do it, but it's advisable. The reason being that in law, there is a particular importance of language. What do I mean? So if you get married and then you go to have a divorce in the civil court, and usually the divorce is all about maintenance of children and property. The court can take into consideration your contract, doesn't have to, doesn't mean 100% it will, but it can, but the contract needs to be, to have legal validity. The contract will be shaped by both parties, otherwise the husband can raise a litigation, and the wife. I mean, if one part only puts clauses, the other part can raise a litigation and dispute the terms of the contract. A litigation can be time-consuming and exhausting and can involve proving the meaning and intention of terms, reviewing the enforceability or legality of the terms, whether any element has been breached, and even raise a claim. Now, the difference between Muslim majority and Muslim minority countries. Muslim majority countries have reformed Islamic laws that are being validated by the state. A woman can seek a khula, and more often than not, the local authorities will grant her the divorce. In a Muslim majority country, the marital contract is signed by an alim, be it a qadi, usually is the imam of the mosque that doesn't have shouldn't be, but anyway. The alim serves as a guarantor for the validity of the contract. A woman should have a wali to contact the alim, given that women are not always comfortable or they do not have the necessary informal acquaintance with the alim. The divorce will be a khula, except if it is in the contract you have a clause where the husband has given you the right to divorce yourself. Many Muslim majority countries already have a stipulation about second marriage. This is, I know it from personal experience. In Egypt, when you get married, the automatic contract, you don't write if we say the way it is without you writing the stipulations. It has two stipulations already. One is the amount of mahar, and the second is whether you permit him to get a second wife. A woman needs to study very well the local, laws independently for her future husband. And I'm talking now about Western women, Muslim Western women, that they go and they marry in Muslim majority countries. Be very careful, know the laws, know what is going on. However, the contract is much more important in Muslim minority countries. Why? Because in Muslim minority country, you cannot find a qadi to divorce you and ask for khula. You have to go to the local council, how we call it? Sharia council, to your local Sharia council. Some countries don't have local Sharia councils. In some countries, Sharia councils are in different cities, and then ask for the divorce, and it's a long process for khula. Okay, we're talking about khula. Now, for you to know, the word khula does not exist in the Qur'an and never was used in the first era, the era of the Prophet. But anyway, we will not discuss about that. It's another invention of the ulama. So, Muslim minority countries. In countries with Muslim minority, Islamic law is a private matter. The state does not acknowledge Islamic law. So, matters of inheritance, matters of how to deal in your house, you have to put stipulations. Therefore, a contract is important if one feels the need of a religious divorce along with the civil divorce. The marital contract requires to be presented to and signed by the local imam the day of the nikah. This validation should be from the local or nearest Sharia council. Now, lawyers usually will advise or misunderstand the marital contract as a prenup. It's not a prenup. And do not hire a lawyer that does not understand what a marital contract is. Get a Muslim lawyer that understands. Because a prenup is very expensive. Okay, a prenup in the UK costs anything between £2,000 and £3,000. In the USA costs $2,000 to $8,000, and in Australia the price is between $2,500 to $5,000. An Islamic marital contract is not a prenup. Marital agreement should not cost you anything, as it is part of the fee paid for the marriage. So when you go to the local mosque to get married, or when you go to the Sharia council to get married, you pay a fee. The husband pays the fee. Marital contract is part of the fee. So the imam or the Sharia council cannot ask you extra money because, oh, you have 10 pages of contract and now this is a different thing and we need to ask you for more money. No. Marital contract, 20 pages if you want. It's part of the nikah ceremony. That is all for now. I hope you got an idea about, for us, for Muslim and minority countries, a marital contract is very important. It is a private agreement and it has to do with your private life. The most important role that it does is giving you your freedom and giving you the capacity to say no. So if in the marital contract you're like, I will visit my mother whenever I want, and then one day he tells you, oh, you cannot visit, or if in the contract you put a stipulation that he will not take me out of my country, and he says, okay, pack your stuff. True story. A Westerner lady marries with a Pakistani man. She gets pregnant. Once she gets pregnant, he sent her to Pakistan, to his mother, theoretically to help with the childbirth, whereas he stayed in the USA. And the woman couldn't say no, because in her understanding, could she divorce and involve her country, the laws of her country? Gray area. The point is, she found herself in Pakistan for months without her husband, living with strangers. Is this something you want for your life? If you don't want it, put it in your contract. If you put it in your contract and the time comes and he tells you, you will go to live with my parents, you'll be like, no, you signed a contract. You cannot do that. And he cannot do that. So that's all for the introduction of why the marital contract is important. Subscribe to the channel, talk to your friends, female friends, and pay attention, keep an eye for the next video. The next video is the most important because I will tell you how Allah in the Qur'an and the Prophet himself and the first ulama, the first generation of scholars, they absolutely support you in the idea that you will put your stipulations, and I will tell you exactly which stipulations you can put, and we will talk about the idea of can I put a stipulation? Because many men say, you cannot tell me not to take a second wife. You can. Also, many men say, no, only the man has the right to pronounce talaq. No, not if it is in the contract. If it is at the contract, the stipulation in the contract, then the woman can pronounce talaq. And not only can, she should pronounce talaq thrice the way the men do. But all of these in the next video. For now, from me, bye.